Hi everybody, I am Rebecca Williams, licensed marriage and family therapist in California, and I am answering questions people are asking about coping with home quarantine, with relationship problems at this time, with just managing their own anxiety. In this one, we're talking about drinking, and this isn't actually a question that somebody asked me, but I'm responding to some chatter I'm seeing online, and I think that it's important to address. So here's what's going on. I hear people checking in on their friends. Hey, how are you managing? What are you guys doing to take care of yourselves? How's everyone doing here? And there's lots of answers that come back, which I recognize are jokes, with people saying like, oh, I'm coping with a gin and tonic, or I'm not worried about toilet paper. I'm worried about running out of wine, right? And here's the thing, is I don't want to be a total downer here. And a little bit of alcohol is probably not a big deal, but there is something that's potentially serious lurking here, and that's developing an alcohol problem. So let me give you some background, okay? Nobody ever sets out to become an alcoholic. But in years of working in substance use treatment centers, and then being in private practice and working with couples, many of whom come to therapy because one of them has an alcohol problem, I can tell you that this is a very vulnerable time for a lot of people who drink. So what happens when someone has an alcohol problem is we'll look back at their history of drinking. And many people point to a time of stress, crisis, grief, job loss, some kind of major life change as being a time when their drinking went from casual or social to really becoming out of control. And right now, I'm recording this in March of 2020, people have those things just layered one on top of the other. Here's the thing. People point back to looking at those times of stress as when their drinking really changed and they turned from being a casual or social drinker to someone who really turned to alcohol as coping. So like, why is it that big life changes are a catalyst for drinking problem? What's really going on there? I'm going to see if I can break it down for you. First, you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, things are outside of your control, your feelings are maybe really intense and you want to break from it. You want to be able to relax, you want to be able to feel good or just not quite so bad for just a little while. And the thing is that alcohol helps with that. So for one day here and there, using alcohol to cope or to relax isn't a healthy coping strategy, but probably not too bad. But when your stress is prolonged or you aren't using other healthy coping mechanisms instead of alcohol is when you have problems develop. One of the first of those is tolerance. And what happens there is that your body gets used to alcohol, and over time you have to consume more and more of it to get the same effect. So you're going from, drink one drink to maybe 3 or 4 or 6 or sometimes 12 in a day. The feelings and circumstances that you were numbing or avoiding with the alcohol are still there when you sober up, plus whatever repercussions you now have to deal with because of your drinking. So you drink to stop feeling sad, you sober up and you still feel sad, plus you probably also feel guilty because of how much you drank or what you said when you were drunk. And then people drink again to numb the sadness and the guilt and so on. And it becomes this kind of vicious cycle that people get stuck in. And when you layer that cycle on top of, maybe if the drinking has gone on for a long time and you've developed that tolerance, you're now consuming large amounts of alcohol on a very regular basis. And what can happen over time is that alcohol replaces other coping mechanisms because it's quick and it's effective. Effective doesn't come without its consequences. That doesn't mean it's good or healthy, but it is effective in doing that numbing, relaxing, checking out thing. So it starts to become your go-to. And when substance use problems get really bad for people, they lose track of their other ways of coping with their stress and their overwhelm and their difficult feelings, and then they drink even more. And when things are kind of at their worst, dependence can develop where people start to experience withdrawal symptoms if they aren't drinking. So then you're drinking just to feel normal. That doesn't happen right away, but it's often not until this stage that people start looking for help or they end up in treatment centers. That's like sort of worst case scenario of where this all could go. And I've seen people on that end of it, which is why I'm talking right now, because I recognize that this is a vulnerable time for a lot of people when you're dealing with feelings of being overwhelmed and stressed and stuck at home, and lots of people might be drinking more than normal. And I know that nobody sets out to create a drinking problem. But for people who drink or numb or shop or gamble or eat to cope with your feelings, now is a really vulnerable time for that stuff. So what should you be doing instead if you're not just going to have a drink because it's rough, because you can, because you don't know what else to do, because you want to escape how bad everything is right now? The first thing is feel your feelings. They aren't going away. And to the degree that you numb the negative feelings, you also numb the positive ones. You can't be selective about which feelings you're not numbing. Even though they're hard and you don't want to feel the sadness and the stress and the worry, acknowledging that they're there and that that's what's happening is way better than numbing out with alcohol. The second thing is to practice other ways of coping. I'm going to be putting out several more videos in the next week or so where we're going to talk about different coping skills. And I want to make a point here that when we talk about coping or coping skills, these things don't make the problem go away. It's rather strategies that you can use so that you can healthily deal with what's going on, or so that you can deal with it in a way that doesn't bring you more problems later. That's what coping strategies are. Okay, and then the third thing, reach out for help early. Don't wait for problems to become unmanageable for you to ask for help. There's lots of therapists available for online sessions right now. And just to be perfectly honest with you, there's also just lots of humans, lots of people, like we're all in this together. And there are many people who care about you and who would be available to sit with you, to talk through the hard stuff, to just say, yeah, I see you and I'm scared too, and you're not alone in this. Reach out for help, practice other ways of coping, feel your feelings. We're going to be here for you. If you want to watch more of these videos, you can like our Facebook page at Inland Empire Couples Counseling, or you can follow me on Instagram at Rebecca Relationship Expert. Stay well.